Great. Thanks, Tiffany, and good afternoon, everybody. Again, I'm Dan Uto with Dickinson Wright. Dickinson Wright is a law firm, as some of you know, that was founded back in Detroit in the 1870s. The firm incorporated Chrysler, now FCA. So a lot of our work is in the automotive advanced manufacturing sector, but we have Silicon Valley offices, Austin, Texas offices, Vegas, Reno. We have 20 offices and 500 lawyers, and all across sectors. So we're also one of the few law firms that has full service operations in Canada, and we do a great deal of work in Mexico. And so USMCA, as Tiffany mentioned, it goes by multiple names. TMEC in Mexico, CUSMA in Canada. But I'm aligned with Adam. I'll mostly say new NAFTA most of the time. But in a special debt of gratitude to Scarborough for today, for the invitation to be with you all today. Just very quickly, as you know by now, that the USMCA was signed on November 30th, getting it just at the last moments there before Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador took over in Mexico as president. So the idea was the old regime could sign it, and then the new regime has the responsibility to get it ratified in Mexico, which is very similar to what Presidents Bush and Clinton did back in '94. So you can basically blame the other person for what's happened. There is, just right now, just in terms of a broad overview, one thing that is looming out there is, will the president trigger the withdrawal provision of the current NAFTA, which would start a 6-month clock that the current NAFTA would be in place. The operating assumption for many of us was that the president would sign that, start that clock at some point, maybe when this is presented to Congress. However, I think there's been enough pushback from members of Congress and others to think that that would backfire. So the idea was originally you'll either get the new NAFTA or no NAFTA. We actually think right now it's highly likely scenario for all of you planning out there. We'll either have the existing NAFTA, which we are in right now until the new NAFTA is ratified, or the new NAFTA. There's not going to be a gap between the two. There may be a lot of noise that you hear in that vein, but we just think, the president, I think, is less likely to sign the withdrawal order now, starting that 6-month clock. But even if he does, don't panic, because there's a number of things that have to happen before that time runs out. Congress may step in, there'll be litigation, et cetera. So I think you can reasonably be assured for most of 2019 that you'll either be in a current NAFTA or new NAFTA scenario, and likely into 2020. I'll just note, we'll talk more about this in just a moment, that one of the big debates during the USMCA process was whether we'll have a sunset clause. The U.S. originally said, well, how about 3 years or maybe 5 years in the new NAFTA, or after 5 years, the new NAFTA will automatically terminate unless renewed by the parties, meaning we would have to go through this process every 5 years. We've flipped it around a little bit. The countries will review the new agreement in 6 years after it's ratified by the 3 countries. And if there are any problems, they'll then have 10 years to fix it. So once this is ratified, we basically get 16 years, and then there'll be a review process. Next slide, please.